7 insane signs you're fighting God's plan at 3 a.m., never told, haunting truths revealed. The clock struck 3, and the whole world seemed to shudder. The air became dense, as if something unseen was about to pounce. In that stillness, secrets stirred. People whispered about it, a murmur sweeping like wildfire, claiming that 3 a.m. was the witching hour. It wasn't just folklore, it was a battleground between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Those who dared to challenge a higher plan learned the hard way. Some never returned to tell the tale. The shadows danced in the corners, making hearts race and skin crawl, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to slip out of bed and question fate. Strange things happen at this hour. Have you ever felt that strange chill creeping up your spine like icy fingers? Some say it's a sign. Others claim when they look in the mirror at 3 a.m., they see not their reflection but something else. A fleeting glimpse of who they might have been, or a haunting version of their deepest fears. The air would thicken, and breathing became an effort. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in the oppressive silence. Most people simply lay in bed, wide-eyed, terrified of what may emerge from the dark. But those who step out, they play with fire, and there's more the unseen presence that resonates in the distance. Laughter that pierces the night like shards of glass. Those whispers never quite fade, circling around restless minds. Some folks swear they've heard their names called softly, luring them from their safe havens, urging them to discover. What were they meant to find? Were they fighting God's plan or walking right into it? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Imagine a Saturday night, when the electricity of anticipation hangs thick in the air. Streets dimmed by shadows cast by flickering lamps. A figure scales the creaking porch of a house long abandoned, paint peeling like skin. Heart racing, they stand at the door. But is it just the wind howling or something more sinister? There's a gut-wrenching tension, urging movement, pulling backs and twisting stomachs. Will they open the door? What lies beyond that threshold? A glimpse of truth or the gnawing realization that some mysteries should stay buried? Outside, the wind carries a whispering chorus, chanting secrets only few have dared to hear. The glow of a streetlight captures glinting eyes from the darkness, watching, waiting. And as that figure reaches for the knob, the artery of fear pumps stronger because deep down, everyone knows, some doors should never be opened, and some truths are far too haunting. What will be unearthed? What will be unleashed? The clock ticks dangerously close to 3:01, ticking down to revelations that could change everything. A chill swept through the figure on the porch as the doorknob turned with a slight creak. Thoughts raced, sharper than the gusts that whipped around the stoop. Was it sheer curiosity or an insatiable thirst for truth that led them here? The door swung open as if beckoning an old friend rather than revealing the darkness that lay within. The interior was a time capsule, frozen in a moment long forgotten. Dust motes danced lazily in the dim light, filtering through broken window panes. A musty smell overcame the senses, as if the house had been holding its breath for years. Shadows huddled in every corner, creeping closer with each hesitant step taken. The walls seemed to throb with muffled whispers, stories begging to be told. Is anyone here? The voice was shaky, barely a whisper itself, lost in the emptiness. Immediate silence followed, thick enough to cut through. It felt unsettling, like the house itself was alive, aware of the intruder daring to disturb its slumber. The floorboards groaned beneath their weight, echoing in the stillness. Each step felt like an invitation to fate. And yet, that unsettling feeling of being watched lingered, unmistakable. Glancing over the shoulder, nothing. Empty space. But as the figure ventured deeper, the sensation intensified, like 1,000 eyes bore down, questioning their motives. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught their eye, a shadow trailing down the hallway. Heart in throat, they swallowed hard. Was it a figment of their imagination? Or something much darker? With every ounce of courage, they pressed on, compelled by an invisible force. The hallway stretched out like an endless tunnel, shadows shifting and dancing along the edge of vision. Was the house mocking them, or was there indeed a revelation waiting at the end of this corridor? A door stood at the far end, slightly ajar. Warm light spilled from within, clashing with the cold darkness around it. Tendrils of golden glow seemed to invite them closer, and a deep, rhythmic pulsing resonated from inside. It felt like a heartbeat, steady and alive, throbbing with fate's promise or threat. That as the figure approached the door, something primal kicked in. A sense of dread wrapped around them. Memories came flooding back, snippets of stories that had long circulated in the town about this house, about those who once stepped into oblivion, never to return. The whispers of the wind took on a different tone, now echoing pleas and a warning that hung like smoke in the air, menacing and palpable. "Don't go in," it seemed to say. "Leave before it's too late." But would turning back only offer regret? Wasn't there an unspoken agreement when crossing these boundaries? That some doors were meant to be opened, even if the consequence was steep. Taking a deep breath, hands trembling, the figure pushed the door wider. The light spilled outward, overwhelming the darkness. But what lay inside was beyond imagination. A room brimming with mirrors, all reflecting different realities, each image showing a glimpse of mortal souls lost in their struggles against the fabric of fate. And amongst them was one unmistakable face, staring back, eyes wild with despair. Their own. Panic surged through the figure, heart racing, pulse pounding straight into their ears. What had they stumbled into? Who were they in all these parallel lives? The answers felt dangerously close, yet always out of reach. With a jolt, the mirrors rippled, distorting everything into chaotic shapes. The clock continued its relentless ticking, inching closer to the next hour. But beyond the door, the next truth waited, a cosmic revelation tinged with dread. As the figure continued to stare into those infinite reflections, one question loomed larger than the rest: what if the plan they were fighting against was never theirs to begin with? And what was waiting for them as the clock struck 3:02? Every nerve in the figure's body pulsed with fear. The mirrors twisted, distorting both the reflections and the course of reality. Each shimmer felt like 1,000 hands gripping tighter, pulling them deeper into a web of confusion and despair. The heartbeat drummed louder, echoing in their mind, syncing with the frantic rhythm of their pulse, and then, the whispers intensified. They no longer belonged to the house or the shadows, but came from the mirrors themselves, an amalgamation of terrified voices, pleading and taunting in equal measure. "Wake up," they cried. "You can't escape your fate." Staggering back, the figure bumped into a cool surface. It was another mirror, its glass cold against their sweating back. They turned, fearfully assessing the distorted version of themselves staring back. This version was older, wearied by struggle, a reflection of a life spent clawing against the inevitable. "Is this what I'm fighting for?" they thought. "To just become a shadow of my true self?" They pressed a palm against the glass. The surface rippled, sent a shiver down their spine, and suddenly, images burst forth. They saw their life pass before their eyes, moments of joy, despair, love, and betrayal. Each scene played out as if the mirror was a window into a multitude of choices, paths diverging but all trailing back to one point. Fearful clarity struck. The deeper they went, the more choices they saw, but every path led to darkness. Just as despair threatened to engulf them, a new image manifested. A vision of themselves, standing tall and brave, arms reaching towards the light. The contrast was striking. "That's who I want to be," they whispered, a flicker of hope igniting amidst the chaos. But the hope felt like a lead balloon, heavy in their chest. "How do I get there?" Once again, the rhythmic ticking of the clock invaded the air, its sound a relentless reminder: time was not on their side. The image of the vibrant self shimmered, wavering as the clock approached the hour, and panic surged anew. What would happen at 3:02? Would this rush of clarity signal a reckoning or a revelation? Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, throwing the room into disarray. The reflections grew wild, twisting into grotesque caricatures of what could have been. Dark hands reached out from the glass, grasping, pulling. The very fabric of reality felt strained as if about to snap. The whispers crescendoed into a chaotic cacophony. You'll never escape. The reckoning is upon you. Rubbing their eyes, the figures stumbled backward, desperately seeking solace among the mirrors. No. I refuse to be a slave to fate. The frantic thrumming of doubt filled the air, but deep down, a glimmer of resolve formed. They would not allow the fear to stifle their will. The key to liberation, perhaps, lay in confronting the very darkness they had evaded for too long. Could facing that darkness be their only way out? Just then, the ground trembled beneath them, sending shockwaves through the room. The mirrors cracked, splintering the reflections, echoes of their cries fading into uncertain silence. In a moment of clarity, they understood, it was not simply about fighting fate but rather redefining what it meant to embrace their path. Would this revelation grant them the strength to confront what lay ahead? As the clock ticked louder each second, they sensed change brewing, both terrifying and thrilling. The second hand neared the 12, and with it came an intangible force pulling at their very being. The figure drew a deep breath, steadying themselves for the inevitable collision with fate. What awaited them as the clock struck 3? The answer would shape their destiny forever. The clock struck 3, a sharp chime reverberating in the air. The sound pierced deeper than bone, slicing through the palpable tension that enveloped the figure. Heart racing, they felt the walls shake, the mirrors shivering with anticipation as if they were alive and aware. In that fragile moment, a brilliant light burst forth from the center mirror, illuminating the room and banishing the shadows that had clawed at their sanity. Every fear, every moment of doubt fell away, leaving only the shimmering, radiant image before them. The figure took a step toward the glowing portal. This is my choice, they thought. But could they really step through? Suddenly, the whispers turned into screams, a howling wind of tortured souls echoing within the mirror. Don't do it. You'll be lost forever. The frantic warning slashed across their mind like shards of glass. A part of them wanted to turn back, to run from the chaos, but the astonishing light whispered promises of freedom and truth. Gathering what courage they could muster, the figure moved closer, feeling the heat radiating from the illuminated surface. The mirror pulsed like a heartbeat. It felt almost magnetic, dragging them closer and forcing them to confront every dark part of themselves. What if this isn't the answer? Panic clawed at their throat as they hesitated, unsure if they could fork over the life they knew. A decision must be made, the voices murmured again, softer now, entwined with a haunting melody. It was seductive yet terrifying. As they reached a trembling hand toward the light, clusters of memories surged, the love they once felt, the friends they had lost, the dreams that had slipped through their fingers like sand. Each one hung suspended in the fragile air between choice and consequence. Just then, a powerful force exploded from the cracked mirrors. It was as if the darkness had become tangible, grasping at their limbs with icy fingers. You won't leave us. They wailed, 1,000 voices mourning the slivers of hope that fueled their struggle. The figure's mind raced. Could the darkness be fought? Was the light simply an illusion, a trap designed to swallow them whole? Racing against time, they felt the walls close in, heard the clock ticking madly in a frenzy of urgency. No! They shouted defiantly. You will not control me. In that moment of desperation, the figure turned their focus within, digging deep to summon the reserves of strength they barely knew they possessed. I'm not afraid of you. The room shook violently as the energy crackled, bright and fierce. The haunting shadows writhed and twisted into nightmarish forms, lunging forward with gnashing teeth and clawed hands. It felt as if every misstep they had ever made was manifesting before them, dragging them into an abyss of despair. Yet amidst this whirlwind, they clung fiercely to the radiant image from moments ago. I choose to be more. They screamed into the chaos. I choose to fight. With those declaration words, the light surged, enveloping them, the shadows recoiling as if burned. The very fabric of reality splintered as they leaped toward the glow. The moment stretched impossibly long, every heartbeat feeling monumental. They were soaring, drowning in brightness, but was that truly salvation, or merely another treacherous trick of fate? As the blinding light enveloped them entirely, the last whisper slipped through the cracks of their consciousness: "You cannot escape." And just like that, darkness swallowed the room whole. What awaited them on the other side of this choice? Would they find their true self or simply become another whisper lost in the void? Light exploded around them, swirling like a tempest. The figure felt themselves pulled in all directions, as though they were caught in a cosmic whirlpool, the pressure building until it was nearly unbearable. It was exhilarating, yet terrifying. The thrill of freedom clashed violently with the suffocating fear of the unknown. Then, silence. The vibrant glow faded, and they found themselves sprawled on cold, damp ground. Confused, they blinked against the dim light that filtered through an eerie mist. It felt familiar, but different. Was this a dream or a twisted reality? They stood up, brushing off the dust and confusion. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else electric. Shadows darted to and fro at the edge of their vision, taunting, whispering half-formed threats. What had they done? "You chose poorly," a voice rasped from behind a twisted tree, gnarled and barren like the remnants of hope. The figure spun around, heart racing. "Who is there?" they demanded, voice wavering. From the gloom emerged a figure wrapped in shadows, its features obscured. "You thought you could escape," it hissed, eyes glimmering like coals. "But you're merely in a different cage." A flicker of recognition sparked within them. This was not just any entity. It felt as if they had seen this creature before, in nightmares. "Leave me alone!" they shouted, but the desperation in their voice betrayed them. The shadow creature stepped closer, its breath cold and rancid. "You dreamt of freedom, yet here you are, bound by choices not fully understood. You must face what you have brought with you." A wave of darkness enveloped them, plunging their senses into chaos. In a flash, memories surged: the faces of loved ones long gone, the laughter of friends turned to ghosts, and the bitter sting of regret. Each one danced before them, accusing and pleading. "Why did you leave us behind?" One memory cried, eyes wide with betrayal. "I had to," the figure stammered, but the creature interrupted. "No, you chose to fight against the very essence of who you are. In that fight, you surrendered everything." The creature advanced, closer still, whispering sweetly, "You seek strength but cling to shadows. You keep running, yet every step leads you back here to me." The mirror realization struck like lightning. The mirror hadn't just offered escape, it had reflected their deepest fears, the very weight of the past they struggled to shed. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them, the shadows writhing as if in response to their turmoil. They had not simply left a life behind, they had cast aside parts of themselves, pieces that threatened to consume them. As the shadows began to swirl violently, merging into a shape. "Face it. Face what you are," the entity commanded, voice reverberating through the air like a funeral bell. Feeling the surge of panic clawing at their throat, they gritted their teeth. "I will not let you control me." With a surge of resolve, they concentrated on the light they felt before, the promise of freedom that flickered faintly in their memory. "I am not afraid." Suddenly, the mist began to clear. Light pierced through the oppressive darkness, beaconing with a warmth they hadn't felt in ages. The entity howled in rage, shadows flinging against the walls of their newfound resolve. But could the light push back the storm? Could it truly defeat the darkness entwined with their very soul? One question loomed larger than all. The path they chose could open a door or seal a fate. As the shadows crashed around them, the figure stood ready to confront whatever was coming next, straining toward the brilliance emerging from the chaos. "What lies beyond this fight?" The words vibrated in the air like a challenge, and then they lunged toward the light, bodies shaking with uncertainty and courage. What awaited them there? Was it redemption, or more profound despair? The moment they breached the boundary of shadow and light, a searing wave of warmth coursed through them. It felt like every dull ache in their heart stirred, ignited by the possibility of hope. The anguish and doubt were still there, swirling beneath the surface, but now there was a brilliant flicker, competing with the encroaching darkness. A flicker, they repeated. Can it really be enough? Suddenly, reality rippled around them. The characters from their past, each tethered to a shadow, twisted and merged with one another into a grotesque tableau of despair. Faces morphed, shifting from parental warmth to faces of abandonment, forever trapped in their anguish. Come back. You're breaking us. A familiar voice echoed, snagging at their mind. It was a blend of anguish and anger, calling to them from within the shadows. You turned your back on everything. I didn't want this. They screamed into the abyss, feeling the weight of the shadows amplifying their fears, pushing them to the brink. Then prove it. The entity roared, looming ever closer. You think fleeing is freedom? This is your truth. Own it. The glow of the light flickered, battling against the encroaching shadows that clawed hungrily at their resolve. I can change, they gasped, trying to drown out the relentless echoes of guilt. I can still find my way. But the thick, rancid breath of the creature encircled them, wrapping tighter like chains. You can run, but you cannot hide from your decisions, dear one. You are stained by your choices every step, every reckless escape enough. They shouted, an urgent force rising within. If I'm stained, maybe it's time I show this blood for what it really is. In that instant, a ripple of defiance surged through the light. They grasped at the golden warmth, summoning every ounce of courage to counteract the shadows pressing toward them. With a deliberate breath, they held out their hands. I embrace my past. I embrace my flaws. You don't control me. Words echoed through the air, resonating like a powerful chant. The very essence of their being began to ignite, spilling light into the dark corners of their reality. With every word they spoke, the grip of the shadows loosened. For the first time, fear shook its grip on them, the creature snarled, its form warping and twisting as if it were a puppet losing its strings. You think this peak of light grants you strength? It's a flicker in the vast wilderness of despair. Then I'll fan the flames. They declared, gritting their teeth against the raw pain coursing through them. I'll find my way back to the light. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, their shrieks echoing through the frame of existence itself. Lurching forward, the figure stepped into the heart of the brilliance. Each pulse of light sent shockwaves through the darkness, fracturing it like glass, yet just as victory seemed near, a chilling laugh reverberated, weaving through the air like a poisonous vine. Did you think this would be the end? The ground shifted violently beneath them, and the light flickered ominously. The visions of their loved ones returned, but this time they weren't alone. Other dark figures joined them, each tied to a decision the figure had made. They were numerous, and they were furious. Fear clawed back into their throat as one of the figures, a silhouette of someone they recognized, stepped forward, eyes glistening with betrayal. You thought you could conquer us. You thought you could simply forget our pain. Heart racing, they gasped, no, I didn't forget. Then face the price of your escape, it murmured, as the world around them began to fracture further, droplets of darkness merging into something larger, something hungrier. What price would they pay for the light? Would it be worth it, or was the darkness preparing to claim more? As they stood amidst the chaos, uncertainty thundered in their chest. All they could do was ask one chilling question that reverberated through the air: what awaits in the depths of the darkness now unleashed? The shadows twisted with an unholy glee, drawing closer, their forms stretching to silhouettes with cruel smiles. The chilling echoes of laughter bounced off the walls of their crumbling sanctuary, drowning out any remnants of hope. Desperation surged like a flood, and at that moment, they felt the darkness breathe down their neck. What do you want from me? They shouted, realizing the futility of their struggle against the pulsating tide of misery and rage. The weight of every mistake, every person they lost, came crashing like waves. A storm brewed within, and it threatened to drown them. You are but a fragment now, the betraying figure hissed, stepping forward. Its face shifted, morphing into the various faces from their past, each etched with sorrow. Do you think accepting your flaws is enough to absolve you? You aren't free. Not yet. No. You're wrong. They cried, heart pounding wildly. You don't dictate my journey. The fabric of the world warped and buckled, and beneath it lay the shimmering remnants of light, fighting like a candle in a tempest. Yet the shadows were relentless, voracious. The figure grinned wider as tendrils of swirling darkness coiled like serpents around them. With a sudden pull, the shadows yanked them backwards. Leave behind the light and come to us. We are your true family, your mistakes, your regrets, it whispered, the tone sweet as honey but laced with venom. Remember when you thought you could escape? When you traded love for fear? We'll always be waiting in the dark. Their breath caught. Those were the moments that haunted their dreams. Seconds when leaving felt like the only choice. The shadows reveled in the pain, each moment relived, unrestrained by time, raw and open. How could it be this tangible? It wasn't just his past they were facing, it was the part of themselves they feared the most. No. They shouted, vision blurring with tears. I won't let you control me. I'm done running. With renewed determination, they pulled the light around them tighter, feeling it dance against the encroaching darkness. I will rise. I have faced the depths of despair and clawed my way to this moment. I won't be dragged back. The shadows recoiled, surprised yet furious. But the figure lunged, darkness crashing against light, a sight that made the ground tremble beneath their feet. The cacophony of screams and whispers collided within them, chaos rallying for the final round, urging surrender, yet amidst the storm, a flicker of the past shone with clarity, the warmth of laughter, the reminder of unconditional love. Faces danced like fireflies in the shadows, silhouettes of those who believed in them, urging them to keep fighting. Together we will break free, they whispered, clutching the warmth tightly. Together we will thrive. In an explosive surge of defiance, the boundaries fused, their pulse synchronized with the unwavering light. The shadows peeled back, revealing snarling faces advancing, but a flicker turned into a blistering flame. The light fed upon the fear, burning it away with a roar. For a moment, it felt like victory was at hand, but just as hope surged, a deep rumble shook the ground. Shadows morphed into a colossal figure, so immense that it eclipsed everything they knew. It towered with malice, darkness pooling like ink. Enough games, it thundered, voice echoing as if the void itself had spoken. Your journey has only just begun. What will you sacrifice to step beyond the veil of light? Heart racing, they realized with a jolt that this was the true culmination of everything, the domain of their most painful, hidden truths. What will you do? The creature's voice slithered, wrapping around them as whispers of doubt filled the air, sweat trickled down their brow as they faced the creature. Would they stand on the edge, staring into the chasm, ready to leap into the unknown? Questions fluttered in their mind like trapped birds that if they were to confront the culmination of their past, what would they have to pay? The darkness waited, eager, hungry, and the answer hung heavy in the air. Would they be ready to face their greatest fear when it emerged? The ground trembled underfoot, as if the earth itself was aware of the gravity of the confrontation. Every heartbeat echoed in their ears, a rhythmic reminder of life in the midst of encroaching doom. The colossal figure loomed, shadows swirling around it like a living storm. Its eyes, two endless voids, seemed to gaze directly into their soul. What will you sacrifice? It repeated, the words resonating like a death knell, each syllable washing over them heavier than before. Doubt crept in, cold and clammy. They had fought so hard to rise, to reclaim their sense of self amidst the chaos. But now, faced with the reality of sacrifice, questions spiraled. Was freedom worth the cost? The light that had pulsed valiantly around them flickered. Panic squeezed their chest, tight as chains. I won't give you anything. They shouted, voice cracking but resolute. The giant figure leaned closer, and the shadows whispered promises sweet as poison. It is not your choice. The light you cling to is but a mirage. What transformation can you withstand? What part of your soul are you willing to surrender to become whole again? Each question landed like a blow. Painful truths began to unearth themselves: the relationships they abandoned, the dreams they sacrificed for safety, the love pushed away in moments of weakness. Were these the things they need to release? Or was it something deeper, darker? In a moment of clarity, they realized it wasn't just about losing but also about gaining. What was waiting on the other side of fear? Was forgiveness possible? Once again, memories swirled, vivid and turbulent, challenging their resolve. The faces of those they loved flickered in and out, moments of joy battling against rippling regret. No. They hollered, voice trembling with fervor. I'm not defined by my past. I am more than my pain. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if they were struck. But the colossal figure didn't retreat. Instead, it laughed, a sound that echoed through the darkness, bouncing like a sinister choir. Very well, it boomed, the ground quaking. Let us test the strength of such convictions. In an instant, the air thickened with tension, and everything shifted. The world around them disintegrated, colors swirling into a dark abyss. The applause of shadows morphed into a deafening roar, and they felt themselves being drawn into a maelstrom of memories. Visions lunged forward, flashes of every choice they had made, every path they had walked away from, crashing into one another like waves against a cliff. Do you wish to take back what you have lost? The creature hissed, breath hot and alive with malice. To rewrite existence. With weighted breaths, they found themselves standing in front of the faceless versions of everyone who had ever been hurt, as if in a dark, twisted courtroom of shame. The figure remained, larger now, embodying their regrets and anguish. What will be your verdict? It challenged, towering like a dark sentinel. Thoughts collided, a cacophony within. In a split second, images of a fractured childhood melded with spectral moments lost to time. Shouts of anger, tears of frustration, laughter that once danced in open air. Everything collided, resonating within them. I desire to heal. They managed to declare, voice trembling but resilient. The shadows hissed, a wave of noise that surged like a storm. Healing requires pain. It demands sacrifice, the giant intoned. What will it cost you? They clenched their fists, staring defiantly into the void. The past was a raging beast, but they had a flicker of hope now, a meager light that still burned. I'll face it. I'll endure whatever it takes. The monster seemed to smile, the corners of its dark, shadowy mouth curling in delight. Your journey is only just beginning. In that moment, the ground began to quake violently, cracks spreading beneath their feet. The air became electric, crackling with energy that heralded an ominous shift. Step forward, if you dare. The threshold awaits. It roared. As darkness surged forth, threatening to swallow them whole, a whisper rose in their heart. It urged them to move, to leap into the unknown. And so they did, but what would they find on the other side of despair? The abyss beckoned, and as they plunged forward, a chilling realization washed over them. This leap wasn't just into darkness, it was a leap of faith. Would they fly, or would they fall? The answer hung tantalizingly out of reach. The plunge into the abyss felt like eternity, a relentless descent through thick, swirling darkness that pressed in from all sides. They braced themselves, heart hammering wildly in their chest, grappling with the strange mix of fear and exhilaration. Was this truly the beginning of healing, or a plunge into something deeper, unfathomably dark? Suddenly, a blinding light erupted in the void, clashing against the shadows. It was painful and beautiful all at once. They shielded their eyes, feeling warmth spread through their skin, burning away the chill of despair. The light beckoned, dancing just beyond reach, tantalizing them with promises of clarity. Trust the light. A voice, soft yet commanding, whispered from within. Navigating the turbulent currents, they stretched toward the source, the radiance growing stronger with each desperate breath. The shadows swirled around them, angry and chaotic, trying to pull them back down. You'll never escape. They hissed, the air thick with their sneers, but the light pushed back, revealing glimpses of moments they long buried, laughing faces, shared triumphs, even brief flickers of love. With every image, the shadows recoiled, their whispers faltering. It was as if the light had teeth, biting into the darkness. "Come back!" the entity roared, its voice echoing like thunder. "What do you think you're doing? Let go!" they shouted, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking. "I choose to face my truth." With that declaration, the light surged, engulfing every inch of the abyss, chasing away the tendrils of shadow as if it were a cleansing fire. The darkness screamed, a cacophony of rage and sorrow, but it was powerless. No longer could it bind them with chains of guilt and regret. They soared, propelled by the very essence of hope, and just as they thought they'd break free, the world shifted once more. The landscape morphed into a desolate expanse, filled with blackened trees and remnants of memories held captive in the withering bark. The ghostly figures of past selves loomed, trapped in an eternal loop of sorrow. Each figure mirrored pain, reflecting choices made in youth, anger, betrayal, and unfulfilled dreams. "What do you seek?" one of the shades rasped, its form flickering like a dying flame. "To heal? To forget?" Every word struck deep, resonating with a painful truth. They had tried so hard to bury their past, to erase it like ink on parchment, yet here it stood, haunting as the mist that shrouded the land. "I seek to remember," they insisted, voice faltering but strong. "To embrace every piece of me, the good and the bad." The shadows recoiled, twisting like dry leaves in a windstorm. "You're a fool to think you can reconcile," they snarled. "You'll be consumed." But amidst the chaos, something within them stirred. It felt like an ember glowing against the night, the spark of resilience. "I'd rather be consumed by my truth than by these shadows." With that, they reached deep within, gathering strength, and summoned the light once more. A radiant spear shot out, illuminating the wasteland. Shadows shrank back in panic, shattering like glass underfoot. Just when freedom seemed within grasp, a new voice erupted, low and menacing. "Do you think you can outrun your fate?" The realization hit them like a punch to the gut. The figure from before re-emerged, amplified and more menacing than ever, shrouded in an aura of dark flames and whispers. "Your sacrifice is merely beginning, and I am what you will pay." Fear seized them anew, twisting their gut into knots. They were still lost in the labyrinth of memories and shadows, yet now they stood at a precipice, a choice laid bare before them. "Will you face your greatest fear?" the figure taunted, moving closer, its breath hot against their skin. "Will you truly fight against destiny?" The moment hung suspended in silence, a tense knot forming in the air, waiting for their answer. Would they step onto this new battlefield? Would they dare confront not just the shadows, but the very essence of destiny itself? The choice was theirs to make, but one thing loomed large. Whatever lies ahead could change everything. Despite the daunting unknown, they took a deep breath, feeling the flicker of defiance rise within them once more. What awaited them on the other side, victory or despair? The atmosphere shifted as the figure stood poised at the edge of their own fears, facing the looming embodiment of all they wished to escape. The darkness writhed, impatient, its power tangible in the chilling breath that still hung heavy in the air. "I won't run anymore," they declared, heart pounding. The words held weight, resonating not just in the void surrounding them but deep within their spirit. "I will confront whatever lies before me." As they stepped forward, the shadows hissed, recoiling as if burned by the resolve radiating from their very core. The paths of their fragmented past surged to life, moments lost and choices made, and yet here, illuminated, lay the potential for redemption. With every step toward that dark figure, they felt the pull of their past, dragging, but the flicker of hope glowed brighter. "I embrace my truth," they shouted, voice carrying amidst the chaos. "I'm not defined by my failures." The shadows wrapped tighter around them, trying to choke the light. "Foolish child," the creature roared. "You cannot change who you are." But they would not yield. "How wrong you are." "I've learned from every scar," they countered, a blaze igniting where shame had once dwelled. "Each mistake is part of me, and that makes me stronger." In that moment, the ground beneath them quaked, the shadows folding back, visibly startled by the newfound strength. They focused, channeling the memories of love and loss, allowing them to surge through like a wildfire. With one final leap, they plunged into the very heart of the darkness swirling around the monstrous apparition. Light erupted, a searing brilliance that shattered the shadows like glass. The colossal figure howled, its form cracking and fracturing, unable to withstand the onslaught of the figure's unwavering resolve. No! It roared, as shadows erupted around it like a thunderstorm breaking apart. Then came silence. Slowly, the remnants of darkness began to dissolve, swirling away into nothingness like ashes in the wind. The figures from their memories now stood around them, not as tormentors, but as a comforting presence, a mosaic of their journey, their life. There was regret, yes, but there was also laughter and joy. "Embrace us," one of the shades whispered. "We are a part of your story." The figure inhaled deeply, allowing the warmth of acceptance to fill them. "I will cherish every piece of myself, good, bad, and everything in between," they declared, a soft glow radiating from their heart, pushing away the remnants of sorrow. In an instant, the landscape transformed. The barren wasteland bloomed with color, vibrant flowers bursting from the ground where shadows once dominated. They felt a gentle breeze, the scent of fresh beginnings wafting through. The trees seemed to pulse with life, their branches reaching as if to embrace the figure who had finally faced their own truth. "I have fought my battles," they sighed, letting a smile break through. "And now, I am ready to step into my future." The world shimmered as if agreeing. A path unfolded before them, leading toward a horizon painted with the promises of tomorrow, a future forged from strength and acceptance, untainted by the fear that once choked them. As they began to walk forward, shadows may still linger at the edges, but they were no longer chained. "You can't escape what's within," a distant whisper taunted one last time. Yet, with each step, the figure felt a solid ground beneath their feet, stronger and more vibrant than ever before. They turned, glancing one last time at the remnants of the dark figure, now fading. "You don't own me. I choose my destiny from here on out." With the light of a new dawn breaking, the figure walked forward, past the shadows, knowing they had conquered not just the darkness but the struggle that lived within. As they embraced the radiant truth that they would weave their own tale from this moment on, and as the very fabric of reality shimmered, they felt more alive than ever. The clock had struck, and they had chosen not just to exist, but to truly live. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Folks. Don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now to stay tuned for the rise of new adventures and exclusive stories. Smash that like button to show your support and help us keep bringing you this thrilling content. Flood the comment section below with your reactions, theories, and what you think lies ahead for our brave figure. And for the love of storytelling, wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your engagement matters. Be part of our amazing community.